South Jersey's home of the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, me too.
WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here, Monday of Game Night, 97.3 ESPN. The NFL draft is just days away. Sixers back in action tonight. Who the heck is playing for this team? Well, we're going to find out tonight. But, hey, man, a lot of news going on. Sixers, Phillies, Odubel Herrera, he is up. We'll get into that as well. Text board is open as always at 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973 is text. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can watch the show and comment as you watch the show. Just follow 97.3 ESPN on all those social media platforms. Kevin McCormick live from the center will join us coming up at 6:40 tonight to get into the 76ers. Losers of 4 straight. They are no longer the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. So we will get to all of that in just a bit. But as always, we got to start with the NFL draft and the Eagles. So I woke up to the story this morning that the 49ers have narrowed their search down to, again, this is a report. This is not from the 49ers themselves. The report says they're narrowed it down to Mac Jones and Trey Lance. Now, aside from the tongue-in-cheek thing that Kyle Shanahan said today about how we don't know who's going to be on our roster because we could not all be alive on Sunday, which makes me think of Thanos all of a sudden. You know, it's a nihilist over here. But still, the bigger thing he said that was important was he said that about Jimmy Garoppolo, the idea is that we are in a good situation, he said, to have a rookie quarterback come in here and not to start immediately. And the bigger picture of the 49ers is whoever they pick a quarterback is going to dictate what happens at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I still believe that whoever gets picked in the top 3 is going to impact 4 through 9, and that'll directly impact the Eagles. And I think if Fields falls, that puts the Eagles in a very, very special position to sit there and watch chaos happen. But if Fields goes to the top 4, then things are a little bit more straightforward. Then it's a little bit more, okay, we know what Atlanta, Cincinnati, Miami are looking for specifically. We don't know as much about maybe what Detroit's going to do or Carolina. Well, we have theories what Carolina's going to do. Detroit's a complete anomaly at this point. So to me, if Fields get past 3, which I think most people are expecting right now, if Fields is not at 3, then what happens is that teams are going to start making phone calls. And that's where Atlanta and Cincinnati and Detroit get involved. And that's where Howie Roseman is out there lurking in the shadows. At the press conference last week, this is what Howie Roseman said. Now, this is not conjecture. This is going right to the man himself. He was asked about making trades on draft day. All right. This is what Howie Roseman said. Take a listen.
All of that planning and thought and conversations, they're happening right now. You know, we're talking to teams in front of us and figuring out like what that would look like, because when you're on the clock, that's harder to do. You know, you don't want to get into a negotiation when you're on the clock, when another team's on the clock. You want to make sure that you understand that what they're looking for and what you're willing to do.
So what you're really trying to tell us is that what happens on draft day is planned out way ahead of time. So everything you're going to see happen on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is being planned right now. This is not going to happen the day of the draft. They are running their simulations right now. The Eagles are calling teams right now. So whether it's the Falcons at 4, again, this is just complete conjecture on my part. I feel like people are overlooking the fact that the Bengals could make a trade at 5. I think the Dolphins trade at 6. I stay at 6. I think the only team I can guarantee you between 4 and 9 who stays put is Miami. I know people are not talking about Cincinnati, but Cincinnati's made some weird moves before. I could totally see them making a trade somewhere. But the Eagles have to be one of those teams that's calling Denver, calling Carolina, calling Detroit, even just calling the Falcons to see what's up. And even calling a trade back. You're calling the Chargers. You're calling the Vikings. You're calling the Patriots. You're calling Washington. The trade calls being made now. There's a lot of plan that goes into this. This is more from Howie Roseman.
We'll talk to teams in front of us. We'll talk to every team in the league. We'll talk to teams in back of us. We'll figure out what they'd be willing to do if there are guys there. Now, it's all contingent on a player being there, but we try to have all that homework done, and the trades compensation is done before the draft. And it's like, hey, the guy's there. We pick up the phone. We say, you ready to roll? You ready to roll? And it's done.
So that's how I rose and telling you exactly how it plays out. So this is not going to be a surprise what happens on draft day for the Eagles. The Eagles are going to go into this eyes wide open. And furthermore, the other eye-opening thing, I'm going to keep playing these cuts until the draft happens, because I think the Eagles gave us a lot more information about what they're going to do and not do that people are giving them credit for. Listen, I know a lot of people out there are all like, oh, well, Sirianni, rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh, we're all focused. I could care less about that part. The fact that half the world is focused on that tells me how illiterate some people are, okay? The Eagles literally were telling you what their draft plans are on draft day, but there are some people out there who want to focus on rock, paper, scissors. Thanks. Thanks for being a bunch of idiots. But anyway, Howie Roseman was asked as well about trading back and trading up. And Howie gave a very insightful answer. So now that you know the Eagles are making calls right now, they've been making calls for the last 2 weeks about what's going to happen on draft day. This is what Howie said about their draft day trading strategy.
Move back, it's because you feel like you have a bunch of guys that are the same value and you'd be really happy getting one and getting the extra volume from that pick. If you move up, it's because your board kind of drops off at that point. And if you select, it's because you feel like it's the last player in that sort of range. And so when we discussed this, I think those were really the things we were discussing about moving back. And when you're moving back early, you have to feel like you're getting a premium. And we felt like we were getting a premium to do that.
All right. So no matter what rumor you hear, no matter what scenario you hear out there, whether it's here on 97.3 ESPN, whether you're hearing on ESPN radio throughout the day, whether you're watching some station on television, any of the networks, you got to remember, the GM of the Eagles already has told you what they're going to do. They are going to make trades during the 3 days of the draft. If they make a trade, it is because it has to do with evaluation of value. When they traded from 6 to 12, they did it with the idea that they believed and thought that the player that they wanted was going to be there. And if they trade back up, it's because they're targeting a specific player. Now, I understand that people are enamored with different players in this draft. And of course, you can text it at 609-403-0973. Also, you comment live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Josh Hennig live here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. We'll get into more Sixers a little bit later in the show with Kevin McCormick up at the center for Sixers versus Thunder tonight, 7 o'clock here on 97.3 ESPN. But when it comes to the Eagles, I am still convinced that you didn't trade down from 6 to 12 if you weren't planning to go potentially defense. Because if you stayed at 6, it was probably a reach if you were going to pick somebody like, for example, Patrick Surtain or J.C. Horn. If you really wanted Kyle Pitts that bad, you would have stayed at 6. So for whatever reason, this team believes that they can get the player that they want by not being at 6. I think a lot of that has to do with these quarterbacks. So I keep circling back to the quarterback. This is not just because we're all enamored with quarterbacks. We all talk quarterback. This is not just shop talk. This is not just barroom talk. This is reality. Quarterbacks are drafted ahead of better players every year. Every single year, Blaine Gabbert is picked ahead of J.J. Watt. It's the story of the NFL draft. So if we know that's going to happen, being at 12 puts the Eagles in prime real estate. And if they make a trade, it's because the guy that they believe makes the most sense for them is going to be there. Now, with that being said, though, I still believe that the Eagles are targeting specific players. I don't think it's a coincidence that they are not making a bunch of crazy phone calls, a bunch of crazy moves. The Eagles have a lot of options at 12. And I think it might be J.C. Horn right now. I think if push comes to shove, and you had to ask me who the Eagles walk out of this draft with, I believe it's at 12. I believe it's J.C. Horn. Because I still believe that 4 to 5 quarterbacks go in the first round. I'm sorry, top 10. I mean, 5 are definitely going in the first round, maybe even 6 at this rate. But I think all 5 could go in the top 10, at least 4. These scenarios that I keep hearing of quarterbacks falling, the 2 of them outside of the top 10, I just have trouble believing, because if I know anything about the NFL draft, and I've heard anything, I've read anything, we know that teams are going to reach for these guys. Whether it is a team like Atlanta, or a team like Denver, or a team like Chicago, or Washington, or New England trading up. These teams make moves. This is who they are. And I think the Eagles are going to benefit from it altogether. I think the Eagles are going to benefit from all this chaos ahead of them, and they are going to end up with a really, really good football player. Now, what do they do after that? They have a lot of options. They could trade back up in the first round. They could stay at their spot in the second round. They could do a lot of things. I don't think anything is off the table at this point. But just keep in mind that the Eagles are telling you what they're going to do. They could have stayed at 6 and got Kyle Pitts. To me, them trading down is them saying, we didn't want Kyle Pitts. He may be the best player available in this draft overall, but that's not who they were targeting. And if that makes them right or wrong, I think it's up for conversation. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. We'll get to your thoughts and comments on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, as well as the text board on the draft in just a bit. I did want to hit on, before we hit the break, the news that came out about 90 minutes ago. Full details at 973ESPN.com. The story about Odubel Herrera. Now, listen, I was on the record 2 months ago, or a month and a half ago, whenever I first was talking about it, saying that I was not a fan of giving Odubel Herrera a second chance. It's just my position. I believe that society picks and chooses what sins they want to forgive. Society picks and chooses what sinners they want to forgive. I think that we have a very inconsistent standard as a society when it comes to our athletes and our celebrities of who's good and who's bad, based on some things that are completely irrelevant and irregular and inconsistent, and it's ridiculous. But with that being moved aside, and my personal beliefs set aside, let's touch on Odubel Herrera. They're calling him up. Mickey Moniak, he's out of here. What does that mean? To me, that means that the Phillies felt they had to make a move. They felt that they could not wait to make a move. That's very relevant. It's very relevant to me because when I look at this organization, I know 2 things for sure. That Dave Dombrowski is coming back to baseball and working with the Phillies because he's trying to win games. So if he's trying to win games, there had to be a reason why on April 26th that this team decided that patience is no longer a virtue with center field and they had to go elsewhere. Now, whether that is, for example, like Frank Close said earlier today on the Sports Bash, that it had to do with Adam Hazley not being here, whether it was because their plan all along was to bring up Odubel Herrera at some point, I don't know the exact answer. But what I do know is the second part of this. I brought this up with Mike Gill about 20 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago, wherever we talked about it. I still think that no reporters in locker rooms is really affecting our ability to know what's going on in these sports teams. We didn't know the dynamics of the Eagles locker room the entire season, so we don't know how bad things got with Carson Wentz and how good things might have been with Jalen Hurts in that locker room. Furthermore, we're not in the Phillies locker room right now. There's not like a bunch of media guys running the Phillies locker room around these guys right now because of these COVID protocols. So there might have been an issue in the locker room that Girardi might have gone to Dombrowski and the upper management and said, guys, we got to shake things up. We got to do something because this locker room is not here. They're not with it. They're not all together. Whatever the thing is, I'm telling you right now, there had to be a bigger reason why this team made this move than just our center fielders are playing bad. And whatever that reason is, I'm telling you right now, because there's no media in the locker room, we may never know the full answer. What I do know is that Odubel Herrera is going to have a major spotlight on him, and the Phillies have a major spotlight on him because he is one of a handful of players who have been suspended by Major League Baseball for domestic violence and came back. We are going to find out exactly what happens. Because I remember how many people looked around and were really mad about Roberto Osuna in that situation. Remember, Roberto Osuna was suspended for almost, I think it was actually more games than Herrera was. And when the Astros traded for him, everyone was up in arms. Like, why did you trade for this guy? There were players in his own locker room that were mad about it. It was a very divisive topic. After the trade, Osuna still played well. Osuna still had, over that time with the Astros, that 2.5 years, a 2.45 ERA. He had 51 saves over that 2.5 year period. He played well. 95 strikeouts in 92 innings is pretty darn good. Now, Roberto Osuna, not playing in Major League Baseball right now. Another conversation to be had another day. Talented 26-year-old, not playing right now. Take that for what you will. But I think that Odubel Herrera is going to be an interesting test case. Because, as Frank Close mentioned earlier, he has not faced Major League pitching in a long time. Between his suspension and between his indirect suspension by the Phillies last year, he has not faced Major League pitching in a long time. This is going to be a fascinating test case to see what could or couldn't happen with him moving forward. Again, I'm taking my personal feelings out of it, taking my personal preferences out of it. I am going to be curious to see how Odubel Herrera handles life in Major League Baseball in a world that is not familiar with him and he is not familiar with it. Because Osuna, when he was on his suspension, he came right back to baseball. Odubel Herrera was suspended and then didn't play for over a year. How does that affect him in the Phillies? We're going to find out. By the way, Phillies mailbag tomorrow. Frank Close on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. We'll get into Sixers coming up a little bit later this hour. Kevin McCormick joins us live from the center at 6:40 tonight. We'll get to your thoughts and comments next. Text board is open at 609-403-0973. We're also live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can watch the show, ask questions, and comment in real time on the video stream or on the text board. Just follow 97.3 ESPN on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Don't forget, we are live in the Matt Black Kia studios here on 97.3 ESPN. Matt Black Kia, they want to get you approved today. Matt Black Kia on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. Visit them online at mattblackkia.com. We'll hear from you guys coming up next here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. And don't forget the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates calling all the play-by-play action.
Hurry, scores! Tic-tac-toe passing.
The Flyers are in Jersey to face the Devils tomorrow. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey on the radio home of the Flyers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN.
Zero down payment, 0% financing, and $2,500 off MSRP on every 2021 Nissan Murano in stock.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
The word is out. The all-new Matt Blatt Nissan and the all-new 2021 Nissan Rogue. Lease a loaded SV model, just $269 per month with zero security deposit. Plus, Matt Blatt Nissan needs your trade. Even if you owe more than it's worth, pay zero down, pay 0% financing, and take $2,500 off MSRP on every new Nissan Murano in stock, plus our fast-track checkout. So bring any trade to Matt Blatt Nissan in Egg Harbor Township next to Home Depot or online at mattblattnissan.com.
Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle. Rate qualifications exist. Not all will qualify. 0% APR financing based on 1667 per thousand borrowed. Offers can't be combined. Call 877-289-6670 or go to mattblattnissan.com for complete details. Offer ends 5/4/21.
It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Here's football legend Howie Long for Skechers Arch Fit shoes.
Do you like comfort? Of course you do. Everyone does. But if you've never tried Arch Fit shoes from Skechers, you're missing out on next level comfort. Saying you like comfort but not trying Arch Fit is like saying you like Italian food but you've never tried pasta. You're missing out on the number one thing. Because with Arch Fit, Skechers created a whole new kind of comfort. They teamed up with podiatrists who used over 20 years of data to create a shoe that provides total foot and arch support for all-day comfort. Arch Fit distributes support across the arch no matter what foot type you have. You don't need an arch problem to love how they feel. And you say you have a passion for comfort but haven't tried them? That's like saying you're a sports fan but have never watched football. It makes no sense. So if you're the kind of person who claims to like comfort, stop what you're doing and try a pair of Arch Fit exclusively from Skechers. Then you'll finally understand true comfort.
See all the styles of comfortable, machine-washable Arch Fit shoes now at Skechers.com.
If you're struggling with alcohol or drugs, Recovery Centers of America can help. RCA's local inpatient and outpatient programs are founded on science and delivered with heart from an expert caring team who will inspire and guide you every step of the way. Call 1-888-RECOVERY now to speak with a treatment advisor. At RCA, you'll be in a community that builds connections and fosters support from peers and RCA's team of medical professionals and recovery support specialists. At RCA's state-of-the-art campuses in Devon, PA and Mays Landing, New Jersey, they tailor your treatment to you and also offer specialized programs for patients with history of trauma, for patients who have achieved recovery but are experiencing a relapse, for young adults, adults 50 years and older, a confidential program for first responders and military, and a faith-based program. RCA answers the phone and accepts patients 24/7. And because it's local and in-network with insurance providers, treatment is affordable and accessible. Don't wait. Call 1-888-RECOVERY today.
All right, is that a Q2 or Q3 expense?
Dwayne's CPA went MIA.
W9.
To keep his books and his sanity, he needs to find a replacement ASAP.
Hey, Johnny, have you ever heard of a fungible good?
Indeed can help him hire the people he needs.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
On some models, excludes Corvette with GM financing. Excludes prior sale. See dealer for details. It's Bennett Chevrolet's Spring into Savings Super Sale. This month, you'll get Bennett's famous GM supplier employee pricing on new Chevys, and you keep all the rebates up to a 25% discount on some models. There's no need to negotiate. Just get here and get your new Chevy at the GM supplier employee price, and you keep all the rebates up to a 25% discount. There's another way to save big with Bennett's available 0% financing. Plus, Bennett's paying a minimum $7,000 for any trade you can bring us, regardless of condition. That's a minimum $7,000 for any vehicle towards any pre-owned on our lot. Imagine how much more we'll pay for your good quality trade. And because our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend, there's never any sales pressure and never any negotiating needed. No stress, no hassles, no haggles. Just your best car buying experience ever. Find new roads at Bennett Chevrolet, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. We'll get to your thoughts and comments on the text board, 609-403-0973 in just a minute. Also, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can watch the show and comment as well here on 97.3 ESPN. Game Night, Sports Bash with Mike Gillis before me. Game Night with Josh Hennig being brought to you by my friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Listen, FanDuel Sportsbook has lots of great options for you to get involved in same game parlays. That's right. You can take player props, game props, spreads, money lines, over-unders, whatever you're interested in, whatever fits your fancy. You can combine them into an even bigger payout with same game parlays, and you can only find them with FanDuel Sportsbook. And right now, if you want to get on the FanDuel Sportsbook and you haven't just yet, new users get up to $1,000 back on your first bet. Just place your first bet with FanDuel Sportsbook and they'll refund you up to $1,000 back. It's like credit if you don't win. That's right. If you want to get in on all the action, sign with my promo code Hennig on FanDuel Sportsbook to get in on all the action and your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. That's promo code Hennig with FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 or to play in President NJRPA. Refund issued is non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 7 days. Max refund for same game parlay insurance, $25. Terms apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's get back to you guys. A couple texts to get to, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. I want to start with Steve. Steve was the first guy who commented on the text board. Steve chimes in and says, I say the Eagles should stay at 12 and take Surtain or Horn. I think the board drops off after that. Talent-wise, I would only move up to 7 or 8 if Chase, Pitts, or Sewell make it past Atlanta, Cincinnati, and Detroit. Okay, a lot to unpack there, so let's do a little bit by little bit here. First of all, I'm all on board with taking Surtain or Horn. I'm consistently on board with that. I'm a big believer that you got to take corner in this draft. I know you're probably not going to get it in first 2 rounds, but maybe at least 1 of the 2 rounds. You got to do it. I have to disagree about the idea that you would only move up if Chase, Pitts, or Sewell make it past. Here's why. Number one, I don't think Jamar Chase makes it past 6. And if he does, I'm going to assume that Detroit takes him. That's my first thing. Second of all, the Eagles don't need Penei Sewell, and considering how much disagreement there is out there about who and what Penei Sewell is at this point, I'm going to assume right now that the Eagles don't need him, don't want him, and if you really want an offensive lineman, you're better off with Rashawn Slater because he can play about 3-4 positions. Kyle Pitts, if the Eagles wanted him, they would have stayed at 6. That's going to be my working assumption until I find out otherwise. I believe that the Eagles traded down for a reason. And if they wanted Kyle Pitts, they should have stayed at 6. They traded down, in my opinion, because they wanted to look at defense and they wanted to see how the board played out because they knew that it was going to be a quarterback frenzy in the top of the draft and they want that first round pick for next year. So those are some of the big reasons why. Now, Steve goes on to say on the text board, beyond that, he says also the Eagles should stay at 37, take Asante Samuel or Terrence Marshall. Listen, if the Eagles walked out of this draft with Surtain or Horn at 12 and Asante Samuel second round, I'd be ecstatic because I would say, thank you. You finally took secondary seriously. Because in the past, this team has tried to cut corners with the defensive secondary and the linebackers. It's about time this team take those positions seriously, especially with a defensive coordinator whose background is defensive backs coach. So that's how I look at it. I really genuinely believe that this team has to go there. But I understand if they don't. I'm not going to be hating on them if they don't. As long as they don't take someone like, I don't know, as long as they don't take somebody higher than they're supposed to, like Gregory Rousseau at 12, like that would to me be a reach. For example, the Miami pass rusher, someone like that would be a problem to me. Either the Miami pass rushers to me are not top 20 picks. I think they're both talented players, but I don't think they are blue chip prospects, as they would call it. I think they're both just talented, good players. I don't see a scenario where Chase, Pitts, and Sewell get down far enough for a team like the Eagles to be interested in getting them. I would be shocked if any of those guys are available at 8. And I think the teams at 7-8 would be shocked too, because if I'm the Panthers, I'm the Lions, and I have either Pitts, Chase, or Sewell sitting in front of me, and I pass on any of those 3, my GM should be fired. Period. You have the Lions and the Panthers, who both arguably have way more needs than even the Eagles do, and they're going to pass on those guys. I just don't see that scenario happening. I appreciate us playing out these scenarios in our minds about what could or couldn't happen, but I just feel like I still live in the real world where things don't go as crazy as a random person online's mock draft may go. And I understand, I looked up earlier, there were 212 mock drafters last year, and somebody ranked all 212 of them on accuracy. So if there are 212 mock drafts and the best one got, I think they said it was 65 picks right overall in the entire draft, I'm not trusting too many of these scenarios. I'm trusting what I know, which is the reporting. I want to get one more text in here before we get the break. We have Kevin McCormick joining us from the center coming up here on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers and Thunder tonight. We'll get into who's available and who is not for the game tonight. I'll give you a hint. Mike Scott, not available. There you go. We'll get more from Kevin McCormick coming up in about 8 minutes from now. But first, we'll get to this text message from Danny HT. Danny HT says, half the league in the NFL have off-the-field issues. How about the disgusting thing that Tyreek Hill did? Second chances is new in America, especially with our athletes. But first of all, I think that saying half the league in the NFL has off-the-field issues is an exaggeration. I will say that in college, I've been consistent about this. For every incident that you hear about, there's 3 others that you will never hear about. I think there's way more off-the-field issues in college sports than there is in pro sports. And I say that because in college, there's more irresponsible activity typically. So I think it's a bit of an exaggeration to say that there's half the league is off the field issues. I think it's a bit of a reach, Danny HT. What Tyreek Hill did was disgusting. Okay? Tyreek Hill actually been in trouble twice. He was in trouble in college, which is why he dropped to the 4th or 5th round, and he's been in trouble in the NFL. The problem is, though, as you said in DHC, second chances is the new America, especially with our athletes. It doesn't make it right. Just because we're out there giving people second chances, you know what that means? We're not giving somebody else a first chance who didn't do anything wrong. That's part of the problem here. Just because that's what happens doesn't make it right. Just because everyone's walking off a bridge doesn't mean you should too. Just because everybody is passing something around and taking a hit doesn't mean you have to as well, okay? Just because everyone's doing something, just because this is a new norm, doesn't mean that I'm okay with it. And doesn't mean that I can't have my opinion, which is these athletes are not always held to the same standards that they should be. Every time you give somebody a second chance, you are probably taking away first chance from somebody else who probably worked just as hard, if not harder, for that chance. So I can't vibe with that, Danny HT. I understand what you're saying. I hear you. And I appreciate your perspective, but I can't vibe with it. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Let's get into the 76ers versus the Thunder coming up next with Kevin McCormick here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app with all of our Eagles, Sixers, Phillies, Flyers, and high school sports coverage all wrapped into a nice bundle on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free thanks to First Bank of Seattle City.
It's Sixers basketball tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
And here's the steal by Benny. And Simmons with a jam. Flying in on Brooklyn. And Ben Simmons with a two-hand stomp.
The Sixers host the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN.
Swing in to Matt Blatt Kia and put 0 down. A hit with 0% APR financing. That's deep for 75 months. A home run. Don't get fooled by a bad pitch. Matt Blatt Kia in Toms River and Egg Harbor Township needs your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. So get out of that old car you hate and get the credit you deserve with 0 down payment and 0% APR financing available for up to 75 months on every new 2021 Kia Sportage in stock, or get a $2,500 consumer rebate only at Matt Blatt Kia. We want to get you approved today, and you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy. Come in today or visit us online because
it's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Offers with approved Tier 1 or 2 credit through PM Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on 1333 per 1,000 borrowed. Negative equity refinanced into new loan. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details. Expires 5/5/2021. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Draw from the New Jersey Lottery makes winning feel epic.
I will pick up to 10 numbers. Then the game will draw 20 numbers. Who's with me, Jersey?
I want to match more so I could win more.
My $1 bet could win up to $100,000.
Let's go!
Go epic with Quick Draw. Played every 4 minutes at lottery retailers. Anything can happen in Jersey.
Must be 18 or older to buy a lottery ticket. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Spring into savings with Viking Pest Control. Save on mosquito and tick control, termites, spotted lanternflies, and bat exclusion during Viking Pest Control Spring Savings event. Get a fast, free quote at VikingPest.com. That's VikingPest.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers game versus the Thunder tonight. Can they break their 4-game losing streak? We're going to have Kevin McCormick in just a moment. Pre-game coverage of the Sixers being brought to you by Trifecta Therapeutics in Glassboro, South Jersey's premier sports rehabilitation and physical therapy center. Treating the pros and the Joes. Visit them online at trifectatherapeutics.com. We'll bring up Kevin McCormick here on the Boardwalk kind of hotline. I did see the message that came in on YouTube. I will get to that before we get out of here a little bit later. So Jersey P, hang tight. But first, we promised Kevin McCormick joining us on the Boardwalk kind of hotline live from the center here on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers and Thunder tonight. Kevin, how you doing?
Josh, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. So obviously it looks like we have an almost whole Sixers team tonight. Ben Simmons back from his stomach flu bug, whatever was going on. Embiid is back in the lineup. So we get the big three back in the lineup, but no Danny Green. Korkmaz is starting. Your thoughts?
I think it's the pretty smart play. I'm shocked at how many of them are playing tonight. I feel like it's going to be one of those games where Doc Rivers wants to try and get some sort of rhythm back, also get this team back in the win column after their 4-game losing streak, but also try and turn this game into what he likes to call some old school load management. So although we'll be seeing Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, hopefully we don't see them for long tonight.
Yeah, it's Danny Green, Mike Scott are both out. But we do have the main three star players, as you might call them, in the lineup. This team is practically unbeatable. As we hear in the background, Kevin, right here on 97.3 ESPN. Now, with those guys back in the lineup, Doc Rivers did mention about, hey, we lost 4 straight games. Probably because Simmons is not out there. Why do you think that we have not valued Simmons enough this year? Because Embiid has overshadowed him? Is it because of Tobias Harris's fourth quarter heroics? I think that Simmons has been overshadowed in his value this team.
I think he gets overshadowed mainly for the biggest fact of his impact doesn't typically show up on the box score from a night-to-night basis. So, like when Joel Embiid is out, you can easily see that this team is missing around 30 points and 11 to 12 rebounds a game, while with Ben Simmons, he gives you a little bit of everything, but very rarely do you see something in great magnitude, but you're missing his defense that doesn't show up in the box score. You're missing not only the shots that he gets himself, but the shots he creates. Since he's been in the league, he's been at the top of the NBA in terms of three-point shots created and makes off three-pointers. And at a team like this where the offense can sputter at times and you really need that key initiator, you could see it in this recent stretch that they've missed Simmons both for his defense but also for what he brings as a facilitator running the offense.
Now, I had said a few games ago that for Joel Embiid, in my opinion, Kevin, I believe he had to play 12 of the final 15 games to get to what I call the Bill Walton threshold, which is the percentage number of games that Bill Walton played when he won the MVP. So I think right now in that stretch now, Embiid has missed 1 game. So he could still miss 2 more games, and he would be among that threshold. Still has a strong enough chance to win MVP this season.
I would say he has an all right chance. In the latest straw poll, he was second and had the second most votes behind Jokic. It's really starting to feel like it's going to come down to Embiid or Jokic. The media still seems divided on the games played thing, and I feel like it's going to be an issue no matter how many games he misses at this point. So as much as I feel like Nikola Jokic has run away with it, if Embiid can stay dominant in this last stretch, no matter how many games he plays, and the Sixers can regain and finish in that top spot in the Eastern Conference, I still feel in the end he's going to have, even if it's just a tiny chance, it's still a chance.
You mentioned the first spot. Obviously, they are no longer the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, but they're only 1.5 games behind the Nets. What do you think the Sixers need to do down the stretch of the season to reclaim that number one spot? Is it just them being healthy? Is it them making sure all their guys are playing minutes? What do you think it comes down to?
Health is obviously the most important because obviously when your best players are playing, you're a better team. That's not, something crazy to say. But the biggest thing down the stretch is just taking care of business. If you look at the rest of the schedule, I believe the Sixers have the easiest remaining schedule in the entire NBA. I was talking to somebody before the game tonight, and they were saying that in terms of record, the Atlanta Hawks are the best team they are going to play down this stretch in terms of record. So playing against all these teams that are, to be blunt, competing for ping pong balls, not really competing for playoff placement. So just coming in on a nightly basis, taking care of business. Don't overlook teams. Don't think any night is just a free win. Just keep focused, keep poised, no matter who's in and out of the lineup, to just take care of business.
Yeah, because to me, Kevin, I think it's important for the Sixers to have the number one seed because of the fact that when you look at the teams who they would theoretically play in those first two rounds, that's a much better path to the finals than potentially seeing the Bucks or the Nets in the second round. And I think if you're the Sixers, you want to avoid that. You want to see one of those teams in the final, conference final at least. You would take your chances with the Knicks, the Hawks, the Celtics, the Heat, the Hornets, the Pacers, and the Wizards.
Absolutely. The way it's shaping up right now, if the season were to end today, you have Charlotte in the 8th seed, and you have the Knicks and the Hawks in the 4 or 5 seed. So if you're finishing in that top spot, you pretty much have a cakewalk to the conference finals, to be, to put it frankly. While if you're in that 2nd or 3rd seed, you're playing a team like Miami or Boston potentially in round 1. And then in round 2, if you're, Milwaukee and Brooklyn may have to meet up with each other. So if you're the Sixers, that top spot is extremely important, not only for the sake of having home court throughout the playoffs, but you want Brooklyn and Milwaukee to just completely tear themselves apart in round 2 before you get your chance at them, because that's obviously going to put you in the best position in terms of freshness, and obviously you'll take the easier road in the postseason every time you can.
At Kevin MCC NBA on Twitter, Kevin McCormick joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Check out all of his Sixers coverage over at 97.3ESPN.com. Kevin, you mentioned them tearing each other up. We saw Durant come off the bench yesterday for the Nets. I mean, no offense to the Nets, but I feel like they are just a dumpster fire waiting to happen. I know I make insistence on this, but to me, you talk about them tearing each other up. I mean, I can't even guarantee Durant and Harden are going to be in the NBA Finals or the Conference Finals or any game in the playoffs. So, to me, I'm more scared of the Bucks right now than I am the Sixers, because the Bucks now have basically punched you in the face for 3 games and said, I'm your daddy at this point.
I don't think that's really going to hold much weight come playoffs. Steph Curry talked a little bit about it on Saturday, that the season sweep in the regular season doesn't really mean anything because the playoffs are a different beast. And if you look at the season series between the Bucks and the Sixers never really saw them at full strength. Every game that they played, one of them, Embiid or Simmons, was out, and in the last game, both of them were out. So it's kind of hard to say that a team has your number when you really never had to play them at full strength. Not to mention, when these teams met here in Philadelphia, the Embiidless Sixers took it to overtime and really held Giannis down for the first half. So although it doesn't look great that a team like Milwaukee, who's in that mix to come out of the conference with you, had your number in the regular season, I don't think it's going to have as much as an impact as is being made out to be.
All right, Kevin, before I let you go, what are you watching for in the game tonight with Simmons back in the lineup, George Hill comes off the bench, and B back in the lineup? What are you looking for? What are some of the keys that you want people to watch for tonight's game?
The main thing to look at is seeing this team get back in rhythm, having all your stars back. It's going to be great to see everyone get into their typical rotations of how things are going to look come the postseason, which then zeroes in on a guy like George Hill, who now that this team is pretty much at full health, obviously you're missing Danny Green, but having him play extended minutes in the second unit is going to be crucial, because part of the reason of why he was brought in was to be that backup point guard slot to help, round out that second unit that's going through a struggle at times. So I'm really going to be looking to see how George Hill does initiating the offense for that second unit. And if he runs with the starters for a little bit, maybe you see a little bit of him and Simmons in the 2-man game trying to explore Ben Simmons as a roller, but mainly just getting that rhythm back after this rough stretch of having endless guys out and different lineups every night. It's going to be good to see them close to full health and getting back to what normal was in those past few weeks.
He is Kevin McCormick at Kevin MCC NBA. He is live at the center tonight for Sixers versus the Thunder. Catch all the action at 7 p.m. Tom McGinnis on the call on 97.3 ESPN. Check out all of Kevin's work, pregame, postgame, all week long on the Sixers over at 97.3 ESPN.com, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Kevin, enjoy the game today. We'll be catching up with you on Wednesday.
No problem, Josh. Have a good night.
And, of course, our Sixers pregame coverage being brought to you by our friends over at Trifecta Therapeutics in Glassboro, South Jersey's premier sports rehabilitation and physical therapy center, treating the pros and the Joes. Visit them online at trifectatherapeutics.com. Before we get out of here, I promise I would get to one more message. It came over on the YouTube feed, and I wanted to get to it because I was talking about my frustrations with athletes getting second chances when I don't feel like they should. And Jersey P brings up a great point. He says, so Michael Vick didn't earn a second chance. See, and this is where I'm glad that somebody brought this up, because this allows me to bring some more clarity to the point I was making about, Odubel Herrera and Tyreek Hill and all these guys. Michael Vick went to jail. Michael Vick didn't just miss out on NFL money. He didn't just lose endorsement deals. He didn't just get, excommunicated from the league like Greg Hardy did. Michael Vick went to prison. That's different. Guys like Herrera and Tyreek Hill and Kareem Hunt and Greg Hardy and whoever else you want to throw out there, these people committed domestic violence. These men assaulted women. Kareem Hunt was on video throwing a right hook on a woman's face. Ray Rice assaulted his future wife. Tyreek Hill was accused of attacking his wife and attacking his child. But yet none of them went to jail. Michael Vick ran or was involved in, depending on who you ask, a dogfighting ring. He went to jail. So what you're telling me is, in America, it's more of a problem if you hurt dogs than hurt people. That's what you're telling me. So to answer your question, Jersey P, Michael Vick did earn his second chance. Michael Vick is not the problem here, because Michael Vick was found guilty in the court of law, went to prison, paid for his crimes, came out of prison, became an advocate against violence against animals. Michael Vick paid his due to society and the NFL. He changed his life. He turned it around. He worked his tail off to get back to the NFL, and he got paid twofold for it because he made another huge contract at the end of his career. So Michael Vick did earn his second chance. And I'm okay with that. But these other guys did not earn their second chances to me. Michael Vick went to prison. Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, Ray Rice, Odubel Herrera, Greg Hardy, none of these guys went to jail because either the women involved didn't want to press charges or the police determined for whatever reason it wasn't enough. Dante Stallworth was drinking and driving and killed somebody. He murdered somebody drinking and driving. He spent 30 days in jail. Michael Vick spent more time in jail than Dante Stallworth. This is the problem I have. We have a double standard when it comes to these athletes. Some people get second chances, others don't. Society has determined that some evil is okay and other evil is not. That's a problem. So you know what? I'm okay with Michael Vick being allowed back in the NFL. But guess what? I'm uncomfortable with Odubel Herrera, Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, and others getting their second chances because they never paid their debt to society, because the people involved in those violent crimes decided that their crime was okay. But in other parts of the world, we determined that murdering dogs is not okay, but hurting human beings is okay. All right. I think I got it out of my system. Jersey P, good question. Thanks, Kevin McCormick, for joining us. Talk about the Sixers. Sixers, Thunder, next on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Josh Hennig. I'll be back tomorrow for Game Night.
It's your chance to win Sports Bash Cash. $10,000. Enter the code words every day at 973ESPN.com or with the free mobile app. The more codes you enter, the more chances you have to win up to $10,000. Here's the Sports Bash Cash code word.
Smile. S-M-I-L-E. Smile. Enter it now on our website, 973ESPN.com, or use the free mobile app. Sports Bash Cash is brought to you by Jersey Shore Federal Credit Union for all your lending needs. Get the next Sports Bash Cash code word tomorrow morning at 9:55.
It's Sports Bash Cash 10 times a day. Every weekday at 55 after each hour from 9:55 a.m. to 6:55 p.m. Listen all day for your chance to win Sports Bash Cash. Up to $10,000.